Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something I think we all feel pretty deeply, this constant struggle to just stay human, you know? Especially in a world that feels like it's speeding up every single day.
I mean, does it ever feel like you're just running a race that has no finish line? It's this constant push, right? Be more productive, be more efficient, always be available, always be on. If that rings a bell, you are definitely not alone. It's like we're all being told to optimize every single second of our lives.
And that really gets to the core of it. We've got all this incredible technology that promises to make us faster, but it almost never encourages us to stop and ask the most important question. Are we even running in the right direction? This isn't about being against technology at all. It's about being for humanity.
So what on earth is the antidote to all this pressure? Well, believe it or not, the Dutch have a word for it, and it might just surprise you. It's called niksen. And no, this isn't about being lazy. It's the deliberate, intentional act of stepping off that hamster wheel, letting your mind wander, just be, with absolutely no goal, no agenda. In a world obsessed with productivity, that is a seriously radical idea.
And look, this isn't some new age life hack. Not at all. In fact, some of the most influential people in history secretly built this kind of doing nothing right into their daily lives. John D. Rockefeller, he wasn't just daydreaming in meetings, he was carving out the mental space he needed to make enormous decisions. Charles Darwin didn't just go for a stroll, he had a dedicated thinking path. For these people, what looked like inactivity was actually the secret ingredient to their biggest breakthroughs.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to explore this art of doing nothing. Then we'll dig into why staying human truly matters. After that, we'll lay out a practical framework for action. And finally, we'll talk about how you can build your very own personal compass to navigate all this.
Okay, first up, the art of doing nothing. As it turns out, this whole idea is way bigger than just one cool Dutch word.
So the Dutch might have a catchy name for it, but the concept itself, it's everywhere. It's totally universal. In Italy, you'll hear about il dolce far niente, which just means the sweetness of doing nothing. In China, Taoism talks about wu wei, which is this idea of effortless action. And in Japan, there's yutori, a sense of spaciousness, both in your time and in your mind. This is deep, shared human wisdom.
15%. This number right here is proof that doing nothing isn't just about feeling good. It can actually drive world-changing innovation. The company 3M famously gave its employees this much time, 15%, to just mess around with whatever ideas they found interesting. No specific targets, no pressure. And what came out of that unstructured corporate Nixon time? Oh, just one of the most useful office supplies ever invented, the Post-it note. It just goes to show you, creativity doesn't happen under a microscope. It flourishes in open space.
Okay, so we get that this is important for creativity, for well-being, but the stakes are actually much, much higher than that. This goes way beyond just avoiding burnout. It really gets to the philosophical core of what it even means to be human.
And this contrast really hits the nail on the head. On one hand, you have what the philosopher Martin Heidegger called the technological way of thinking, seeing the world as a pile of resources to be mastered, optimized, and controlled. But there's another way, to inhabit the world, to live in it with care, to listen, to find our place within it. It's the huge difference between trying to command the world and trying to connect with it.
And that leads to a really profound realization, one that the philosopher Hannah Arendt captured perfectly. Our real value as human beings doesn't come from how much we produce or how efficient our labor is. No, our humanity, the core of it, lies in our unique ability to think, to reflect, and to make judgments. The second we trade that away for pure efficiency, we're giving up the very essence of who we are.
We can think about where to focus our attention on 3 connected levels. It all starts with attention for ourselves, basic self-care and time for reflection. When we do that, it allows us to give real, genuine attention to our community, our friends, our family, our colleagues, and from there we can expand our circle of care to the whole, our society, our planet. These aren't separate things. They flow right out of one another.
Okay, so this philosophy is all well and good, but how do we actually live this way? Let's get down to brass tacks and turn these big ideas into a real, practical framework for action. The whole approach really boils down to 3 simple layers. First, you have to define your core values. Then, you build daily practices that bring those values to life.
And finally, you support all of that with the right attitude. Values, practices, attitude. Let's break each one down.
So, step 1, values. It all starts here. In a world that is constantly screaming faster, more now, we have to consciously choose our own principles to live by. Maybe that means valuing autonomy, the real freedom to think for yourself. Or maybe it's connection. I mean, real contact with people, not just scrolling through feeds. You could value slowness, giving ideas and relationships the time they need to grow. Or even vulnerability, having the strength to admit you can't control everything.
Next up, you turn those big, abstract values into actual, real-world practices. These are the small habits that give your values a place to live and breathe in your day. So if you value slowness, maybe you take a walk with no destination. If you value connection, you share a meal with someone without constantly checking your phone. If you value autonomy, you schedule time to be totally offline. They don't have to be huge, dramatic things, just small, repeated actions that make your values real.
And that brings us to the final layer, the one that really holds it all together, your attitude. This is your inner posture, the mindset that keeps you grounded when the world is trying to pull you back into the rat race. It's about cultivating humility, really knowing that you don't have all the answers. It's about finding wonder in everyday things. And it's about staying curious, having this open, non-judgmental approach to the world and to other people.
Okay, so how do we wrap all this up into something we can actually use day in and day out? A really powerful way to do this is to create your own personal manifesto. Think of it like a compass for your life.
And here's a super simple template for what that might look like. You can start with a big picture vision for the kind of world you'd like to see. Then you can narrow that down to a personal mission. What's your role in helping create that world? From there, you spell out the values that are going to guide your actions. And finally, you list the daily practices that make it all happen. This becomes your personal North Star.
But of course, a compass is pretty useless if you never actually look at it, right? The key to making this a real, living practice is to ask yourself one simple, powerful question on a regular basis. How do I know I'm still doing the right things? That question just cuts through all the noise and helps you recenter on what truly matters to you.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Remember that nagging feeling, that need to keep up, to go faster, to do more? Well, maybe, after looking at all this, maybe that's just the wrong question to be asking in the first place.
Maybe the real challenge, the most important question of our time, is this one. How do we stay human within all the acceleration? How do we carve out space for the slowness, the reflection, and the connection that actually define us? Not as something to do in spite of technology, but as its essential human counterbalance. That is the question really worth our attention.